Welcome to Evidently Speaking by Project Evident. I'm Sarah Troia. Project Evident harnesses the power of data, evidence, and technology for greater impact. Evidently Speaking explores the stories core to this mission and highlights the insights and successes of nonprofit practitioners and our partners. Project Evident worked with the technology and program leads of 13 nonprofits to co-create a practical and actionable Equitable AI Adoption Framework. The episodes in this series each examine one component of the framework and feature the experience and expertise of our partners. Today's topic is stakeholder engagement. The Equitable AI Adoption Framework breaks stakeholder engagement into three key areas: identifying stakeholders and relevant staff, engaging stakeholders and relevant staff, and incorporating ongoing feedback. Before we dive in, I want to emphasize that stakeholder engagement is at the heart of any design process. And in the case of using AI inside your program model, some of our interviewees are pulling from classic product design thinking.
I think the reason I keep using the word product is because, in product design, there's all these useful concepts, right? Like there's the idea of a design cycle. There's this idea that you're having user satisfaction metrics and you're supposed to be really empathetic, right? Like a good product manager really understands users, really is tapped into their needs. And that's seen as really essential to building something. Well, I mean, in the for-profit sector, building something that will make money. But then in the nonprofit sector, it's just as important because if we want to have impact, we have to get people to engage with our thing. But yeah, I guess program versus product, I think a lot of product design principles really influence my thinking on the subject.
That's Sarah Gripshover, Director of Research at the Project for Educational Research That Scales. Well, PERTS is an organization that works to provide resources for educators to create the conditions for young people to feel like they belong in school, such as providing coursework that feels meaningful and relevant to their lives. And that helps students feel like adults believe in them. Sarah's organization, PERTS, is earlier in their AI journey. They're currently developing and beta testing an AI tool to recommend practices for educators to use in their classroom. At PERTS, identifying and engaging stakeholders has always been a core part of their approach.
I mean, that's not even a AI thing. That's just product development, right? You're not, what are you doing if your stakeholders aren't engaged? How would you know that you're building something useful to them?
Stakeholder engagement starts with knowing who should be at the table, and sometimes realizing that the table is a lot bigger than you first thought.
I would say teachers, students, administrators like principals, superintendents, state, school and district level decision makers, and to some extent parents too, because I think parents are the ones who worry about like privacy and what their kids are being exposed to. So we have less contact with parents of all the stakeholder groups, but I'm a parent, so I always think about them as well. I think for me, I just started thinking more about parents when it came to this AI implementation, just because it's kind of separate from my work life as a parent myself. I started realizing, oh, holy cow, this data is being used to train these models. What apps is my kid being exposed to? What kind of data is going in, right? So I started thinking that way in my private life, which made me start thinking about it in my work as well.
For talking points, identifying stakeholders starts with families, but it doesn't end there.
In the nonprofit sector in general, we are trying to serve communities and really make things better for people. And we can't build for, we have to build with. So it's really critical and essential that we are making sure in every step of the program development, the technology development, that we are incorporating the voices of those that we're trying to serve.
This is Laila Brenner, the head of philanthropy at TalkingPoints. TalkingPoints is what we would call an AI native organization. They were founded with AI at the core of their program model. So they use technology and AI to help schools and families build meaningful partnerships that help children thrive.
Our stakeholders really start with families. We are trying to help families support their child at home and help schools facilitate that. So, educators are stakeholders, families, students, and definitely district leadership. How do school districts drive these activities and really engage families in meaningful and effective ways? And I think we've been a little surprised at some of the stakeholders within districts that we didn't originally design for, but have found really profound uses of talking points. For example, guidance counselors, attendance clerks, some very specific roles within school districts that um, play a part in a meaningful part of a child's day that need to be considered.
So, what we've heard from Laila and Sarah is to think expansively when it comes to identifying stakeholders. Now, once stakeholders are identified, the next step is engaging them, not as an afterthought, but as co designers. For Talking Points, co design has been a part of the organization's DNA from the start.
It's so core to our DNA. Actually, the very first prototype of Talking Points was co-designed with teachers who chose this solution at a hackathon and said, we have needed this for our entire career. Let's build this together. So we've taken that concept of co-design and ensuring we're getting feedback from our stakeholders through every part of the development and evolution of Talking Points. We have very specific committees based, made up of various stakeholders from district administrators, families, teachers, educators at various levels who we show different, well, first we go to them and we get ideas and we share ideas. What are your biggest challenges? We're thinking about building this. Is this something that would really solve a challenge that you have and is a prominent challenge? And when we make sure that we're working on the things that are most important to our users, we start small, we experiment, we build, and then we go and we test and we say, does this work? Is this effective? Would you use this? How can we make this better for you? And we come back and we iterate and we go through this process to make sure that the feature or the tool that we build is really built to serve these stakeholders and users. The last thing that we want to do is put in a feature that we think is fun and exciting, but doesn't solve a real challenge for our community.
Engaging stakeholders means starting early, very early in the process.
Our research fellow who's leading up this work, she did a bunch of qualitative interviews with users, or last spring or so, early in our development. And she kind of mocked up an early version of the chatbot and just got on Zoom calls and put it in front of people. And number one, she tried to ask them like what they want it to do. So like what do they wish they could use it for? And then she also had them ask it some questions and looked at the answers together with users to kind of see like, okay, well, does this answer satisfy your needs? Does it get to the question you really wanted to know about or not?
Once you've identified a real problem that your stakeholders want solved, stakeholder engagement starts to move into design iteration.
AI development for us is rapid sprints.
That's Eduardo Hernandez. He's the Executive Vice President of AI Technology Solutions at Scholas. Scholas is a national nonprofit that opens doors to technology careers for people who've been traditionally left out of the industry. They provide tuition-free training and connect graduates with employers who need their skills. Eduardo and his team have utilized AI for many different areas of their program model. One example is they've built an AI assistant tool that helps learners with assignments, certification prep, and confidence building. Here's Eduardo's talking through Scholas's iterative design process with stakeholders.
So we came up with the use cases of how learners would want to engage with these tools, right? Then we did what's called alpha testing, which we gave it to trusted instructors and trusted coaches, part of our AI employer internal action group. So they were testing our assumptions. And then we had picked some pilot cohorts for what I call our beta phase. And that's where we're at right now. And now we're getting that feedback from the learners. And what's actually really cool is most of it is like, wow, you guys have done amazing. And we're seeing the feedback, but there's still room for improvement. So this is now where we did further prompt refinement. We did further tool refinement for our bigger natural rollout. I can actually give you a perfect example of when we were out there for the quizzing that we had a quiz agent built out. And the model was actually confusing people because it was saying, hey, you got the answer right, and then correcting itself 3 lines later. No, actually, you're wrong. And we dug in with learners and they helped test it. And we found out it was something we have to tell the model to pause a little bit because it was going too fast. Some of these models reason. They give you your answer before they finish reasoning and then they contradict themselves. So that's one of those things that even in our internal testing, we didn't get, but now we got it. And we're able to go back, reframe the prompt. And actually the way we've designed the system is we can real time edit it. So we went in there for stuff like this, like a bug problem. Okay, let's edit it. Let's get it out there. We're also going through some of the feedback on tone and engagement. Answers are too long sometimes. We want something shorter. So this really expanded beta phase is about 200 learners. So now we're really getting to the meat and potatoes of the user.
And stakeholder engagement, it doesn't have to be high stakes. It doesn't have to be perfect. But an iterative design process, it does take time.
Just get on the phone with some people. You don't have to have like a detailed interview protocol or something like that. You just have to show them the thing and see what they think, right? And you can write some notes, you can record, you can not record. It doesn't really matter. I think the best way to get a lot of feedback from stakeholders is to make it really low stakes and low effort to like talk with these people, right? I think an important aspect of our approach is that we're starting slow. Like we're going to release the, virtual coaching tool in small batches, and we're going to start with really close human supervision. So what is this going to look like? It's probably going to look like me and my colleague E, who's, leading up this work, just reviewing questions and responses as they come in. I mean, I just don't think there's a substitute from that.
Stakeholder engagement isn't just a box to check, it's a continuous practice. Now, at TalkingPoints, they've invested in a full research function, and they have standing user groups that they can turn to.
We have a user research function to make sure that we are constantly including the voices of our communities and getting feedback from our users. So it is, I have learned in my career, a very highly skilled position, someone who understands how to talk with humans and elicit really useful feedback. So they spend a lot of time contacting users, calling, doing interviews, asking them very pointed questions, and then taking all of that information and feeding it back to our technology and product teams and program teams to make sure that they're able to implement that into their work. We wanted to make sure that we weren't leaving any voices out of our building and our work. And so we wanted to make sure that we had established groups that we could turn to when we were facing challenges or weren't certain about a direction a certain feature or tool should go in. Also add that in addition to these formal committees that we have stood up, we do user research all the time. So our user research team is conducting dozens of interviews every week with various stakeholders to make sure that we're not just capturing the voices of those who've signed up to be on the committees, but that we're really reaching a wide swath and variety of the communities we're trying to serve.
We've been focused on engaging external stakeholders, but internal stakeholders, staff, matter as well when integrating AI into program models.
We have a branch of our team, the program team, that interacts with our users all the time. So they, I think, were rightfully concerned about any kind of fancy new feature that's going to pull focus away from day-to-day work of serving our users well. I think what was helpful in not like overcoming resistance, but just in kind of assuaging people's really valid concerns is I think we were really smart to make AI adoption a research and development initiative, right? Because like we were able to say, okay, internal team, here's our idea. Here's how we're going to test it out. Here's how we're going to know if it's working, right? So it wasn't like, oh, we're just going to do this. And, it was like, we're going to test this. And then I think the other thing that helped was seeing our team, I'm the head of research, so it was my team that was collecting input from users. But seeing us do that, I think was like helpful because, we're not making plans to release this until we've heard from a lot of users saying, okay, yes, this sounds like a good idea. We've sanity checked the design will work well. And so again, this is just good product development. This isn't specific to AI necessarily, but I think AI rightfully gets a lot of scrutiny because there is kind of a gold rush mentality around it of, and that's just going to be what it is for a while. But yeah, I think that's how we've addressed, internal concerns.
If you don't include your internal stakeholders when designing for outcomes, you could end up doing the work twice.
An example we had is we were kind of developing this resume tool also. And the initial thing we had done is we were trying to solve a problem targeting learners as the users, but the main users of the actual tool were going to be our coaches. We actually didn't take into account what they wanted to see, and it actually didn't fit. And for example, the output was really biased, and learners couldn't actually see the bias, but the coaches were like, hey, guys, the tool is not actually doing what you want it to do. You're not seeing the bias in the output. So what we did was we restarted actually the tool. We went back into redesigning. So my thing is, you don't really want to do this twice. So as we've built other AI tools, we make sure we bring in not only the stakeholders who are going to be using the tool, but the people who support those individuals all in the beginning of the design process. And we've had a lot of success with that.
So whether it's internal or external stakeholders, remember these important steps. Identify your stakeholders and make sure it's a problem that matters to them. When engaging stakeholders, be iterative. Don't think you're going to get it perfect the first time. Show your work, take your time, and finally, it's not a one and done activity. Think about how to make ongoing feedback and insights as a part of your organization's routine practice. Thank you for listening to Evidently Speaking by Project Evident. I'm Sarah Troia. At Project Evident, we work to build trusting partnerships and expand access to tools so leaders have what they need to improve outcomes. We believe that when practitioners are equipped with actionable data and evidence, stronger and more meaningful outcomes for students and communities become a reality. To learn more about our mission and work, visit projectevident.org.